up, Bigfooters? My name is Brady, and today we are back out in the parallel forest in the Wichita Mountains. I was actually out here just a couple of days ago, and I found this to be a very promising location. But today, my specific goal is to find and cast a footprint that I found in my previous video when I came here. Now, in my previous video, I mentioned that it could possibly be a potential Sasquatch footprint, but I came to the conclusion that it was most likely two longhorn or bison tracks right next to each other, and it gave it the appearance of a footprint. However, today I'm going back out and I'm going to try and cast that footprint if I can find it. I still think it's most likely a double-stepping bison track, and the off chance that it is a Sasquatch track, I do want to make sure that we have it documented and casted just in case. As Cliff Barrickman says, when in doubt, cast it. And I don't know what it is 100%, so when in doubt, cast it. So right now I'm just making my way over there, and let's see if hopefully we'll find it. Alright guys, here is the potential track in question. The top is right up here and the heel goes down this way. And there's a bump right here, and I interpreted that as the middle section between the two bison tracks. But it could be a mid-tarsal break if it is a Sasquatch print. So it's not very big, it's only about human size, it's about the size of my foot. But another reason I was very skeptical of this, there are no other tracks in the area looking similar to this, while there are many other bison tracks in the area. This is very hard, firm ground. If it left this, it would probably have to be like an intentional leaving of the track. So I'd have to stomp down incredibly hard, especially for a soft padded foot like a Sasquatch foot would be. The sun is out today. It's not overcast like it was last time, but I think you're going to be able to see it much better once we get the casting. So my first step right now is I'm going to use one of these sensor cleaners that you get with the camera. I'm just going to try and blow as much of the extra debris that is on top of the cast out. I don't want to be doing a whole lot of picking with my fingers. I don't want to grab a whole bunch of the grass out because I don't want to leave any extra marks on the footprint. If you ever use one of these while you're casting a track, don't squeeze it too hard, because that can actually disturb your footprint. You just want to do very lightly just to get any of the light grasses that have blown into the track off. Just do whatever you can not to disturb the track. You want as much of the actual information of the footprint as you can possibly get. Now that it's all cleaned off, I'm going to start collecting some data from the track and from the general area, just to get as much information as I can. So now that we've thoroughly documented this track through field notes and proper measurements, it's time to start casting this thing. This is the only print of its kind that I've found in this area. There's other like scuff marks in the grass over there and in the grass on the other side, but that looks to be from bison. Some people prefer to bring buckets of plaster, which I do prefer, but it's very heavy when you have to bring an extra mixing container. It takes up a lot of space, so what I do is measure out a bag of plaster, and I have 1 bottle of water. It's exactly measured, the 2-to-1 ratio. You need 2 parts plaster to 1 part water, so what I did, I just measured however much this is and double it. That's how much plaster I get. So now we're just going to go about casting this thing. Normally I would use the splatter cast method, but in this case the ground is very hard and it's not like an incredibly detailed cast, so I don't really think I would really need to use the splatter cast method in this particular case. But usually I would definitely recommend it. Like if I had plaster to spare, I would still use the splatter cast method just to be safe. But this is very hard ground. It's a pretty old track, so I don't think it's going to be distorted as long as I'm careful in pouring it. So now, the fun part. Now we get to mixing our plaster and our water and pour in the track. So here's my little casting kit. I always double bag it just in case one of the bags breaks in my pack. I don't want to make a mess everywhere. Now I just add the water. Another benefit with using a bag like this is you don't need a mixing tool. You can just knead the bag with your hands, and that mixes up your plaster pretty well. Ooh. Exploded out the top. And this way you can really get a feel for your plaster, make sure there's no lumps in there, make sure it's a nice and smooth mix. But you also have to work rather quickly, because if you let your plaster get too thick while it's in a bag like this, it'll just get stuck to the bag real easily, and it'll be real stubborn and not want to come out. And make sure you get the corners nice and mixed. I'm sure you've heard this before, but you want it to be sort of like a pancake batter. So make some pancakes at home for practice. Getting to a pretty good consistency. Just want to make sure I have all of the chunks mixed up. I do recommend practicing it because I cast a lot of footprints, so I have plenty of practice doing this. But if you've never done this before, I don't recommend your first time casting being for a potential Sasquatch track. So go out to your local woods, cast some deer tracks, some raccoon tracks. Take your kids, it's fun to do, and it's good practice, because you don't want to come upon an authentic Sasquatch track and not mix it properly and mess up your documentation process. So now that it's mixed up pretty good, we're just going to pop it open and pour it right into the track very carefully. Very carefully. Just want to make sure you have every little bit out. And that's really all there is to it. Now it's just a waiting game, and while we wait, we can collect some more data, look for any more sign in the area. I'm going to stay around here to make sure it doesn't get disturbed by any animals or any people walking by. And that's how you cast a track. And it's an excellent way to gather some data that you wouldn't have noticed otherwise if you didn't cast this track. So I'm excited to see what additional information we can gather once this comes out of the ground. And I'll pick this up then and show you guys how to extract your track from the ground once you have it all finished. Alright guys, so now the footprint is nice and cool, the plaster is cooled off, so now it's time to take the cast out of the ground. You can use a shovel or even a stick, but I just prefer to use a knife. This is definitely the step you have to be most careful with, because it's very easy to crack the cast in this state. So you want to be very careful when you're digging around the cast, and be sure that you don't accidentally poke it, that you don't accidentally pull up on your knife and crack the cast. So this is the most nervous part. Make sure you take your time when you're digging it out. You do not want to rush this process. Pretty much the entire process of casting tracks takes patience. Oh, dude, check that out. Look at that big guy. Oh, he's not big, he's a little guy. Found a little worm. But more importantly, I've got the cast out of the ground. Whew. Now you do not want to go home and clean this off with water. You want it to cure all the way before you start washing this thing off. I mean, you can take the bigger chunks of dirt off there if you want, just to get a basic idea of what it is, but we do not start cleaning this thing off for a while. I don't think we're gonna know exactly what it is for a few weeks, because now we want to take this home, go set it out in the garage somewhere, and wait for it to cure all the way. 1 to 2 weeks, 1 week at least, so it's hardened all the way and we can clean it off real good. You also do not want to go home, take out a brush and start brushing this thing off, because with the cast being still pretty wet, the act of brushing can introduce details onto the cast, and people can misinterpret those brush marks as things like dermatoglyphics. And there's pretty much the final product. Seems to fit the dimensions of a Sasquatch foot pretty well. It's about half as wide as it is long, but we won't know for a few more weeks. When that time comes, I'll be sure to update you guys on that and show you how to clean off the cast. There's that bump that was found in the middle. So who knows, maybe it's a mid-tarsal break, maybe not. Exciting stuff. Let's head back. Alright guys, we're back in the studio right now, and here's the cast straight from the ground. And you know, with the cast in my hand, we still can't really tell what it is for sure, and I don't think we're gonna know until we get the cast properly cleaned off with water. So we're gonna have to wait a couple of weeks for that. But even still, with the cast in my hand, I'm still thinking that this was most likely 2 bison tracks right next to each other. So I'm not thinking this is a Sasquatch print, but you never know. Once we get this cleaned off, hopefully we'll be able to see some more detail. There were possible toe impressions at the top. Hopefully those came through, and we'll find out if they were toes at all. You can see this bump right in the middle, and that's what could be the possible mid-tarsal break. That showed up really well in the cast. I'll be sure to keep you guys posted, and I'll do a more in-depth analysis of the cast once I get it cleaned off in a couple of weeks. But even though I still do think that it was 2 bison tracks or longhorn tracks right next to each other, I don't think I would have been doing my due diligence as a researcher if I didn't cast it, just in case. When in doubt, cast it. So since I wasn't 100% sure what it is, and it seemed to fit the general description of a Sasquatch footprint, even with that possible mid-foot flexibility, I decided to cast it, and hopefully we'll have a positive idea on what this is here pretty soon. So I'm excited to get back out there and see what else we can get in the future. But really, with that said, I think that's gonna about wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, thanks for watching. Keep squatching.